Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Books Beside My Bed video. For those of you who are new here, I film one of these every week where I wrap up the last 7 days of reading, and for those of you who are very familiar with this series, welcome back. This is my reading week from the 9th until the 15th of June. I read 7 books this week. 3 were middle grade, 3 were YA and 1 adult book, I think, if my math is right. I read a total of 2,653 pages and I'm up to 153 books for the year so far. For those who are interested, I actually managed to also watch the first season of Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime, which I really liked. I just thought it was very cleverly done and very smart. It's all my type of thing, spy thriller things with explosions and traveling and all sorts of stuff. That was great. I also started re-watching bits and pieces of The Expanse season 3, mostly just because I wanted to re-watch the scene where Bobby and Avasarala escape on Julie Mao's racing ship and then are rescued by Holden and the crew of the Rocinante. I just really like that scene, so I wanted to rewatch it and it's like comfort for me. And hey, both shows are book related. Not that I've read any of Tom Clancy's books, but hey. Okay, let's get into the books for this week. If you watched my video last week, you know that I was about 20% of the way through Bedlam by Derek Landy, which is book 12 in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. So I actually finished this on the Sunday and I enjoyed it. So this is a 2019 release from HarperCollins and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. Being book 12, this series is really hard to talk about because a lot goes on in every single book, and by the time you get to sort of book 12, you can't really talk about it without giving away spoilers. However, in this series began as middle grade. It's sort of now in that YA category. Our main character Valkyrie is now 25 years old and she is dealing quite a bit with a whole lot of things that have occurred in the series. So there's quite a bit of PTSD in her storyline. She's also a bisexual main character in middle grade-ish fiction, which I really love and appreciate. And the relationship between her and the other characters who have been with her in the series so far has grown and changed and really become more mature, which I think is really important, especially in a book like this that has spanned so many years in terms of storyline. I am going to give a basic summary of the story, so there's going to be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear it, skip over it. But essentially, this is the story of Valkyrie trying to recover her sister's lost soul. To do this, she has to go against her friends, the High Sanctuary, and a whole host of other villainous characters that are floating in the background. Alongside this, we have our secondary character, Omen Darkly, who was introduced in this new series, and he's a teenage boy in high school. He's sort of the shadow of a brother who is the chosen one, but Omen is sort of overlooked because he's just there. He's not the chosen one. He's not going to be doing any grand ordained feats of heroism, and yet he still finds himself caught up in all these situations. And in this, he finds himself caught up in trying to prevent a war. And it's quite endearing because he's a very lovely character who just feels like he's not worth anything, and so you sort of appreciate him for that. And then everything happens and there's big fight scenes and all sorts of things. It's a great series. I do enjoy it. The humor's great. So 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Allegiance of Honor by Nalini Singh. This is book 15 in the Psy Changeling series and the end of the first sort of series within this world. So the next series is the Psy Trinity series, I think. This book was published in 2060 by Gallant and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This was an interesting book because it literally brings together the perspectives of pretty much everyone from the series so far, and I mean that's a lot because all of the 15 books sort of have different main characters, so we sort of check in with all of them, and as such it felt a little bits and piecey, but I mean there is an overarching story and it does tie together really well, but it's almost like we had to check in with those characters all the time, which I didn't think was 100% necessary, because if we knew that the series was going to continue, even if we don't see all of these characters for long periods of time, we can still check in with them and see where they are. But I mean, that said, I love this series and I love the characters, so who am I kidding? I just enjoyed it. And essentially this is all of the different characters trying to bring about this Trinity Accord, which is an agreement between humans, Psys and changelings to try and stabilize everything that's going on. As well as that, they're trying to stabilize the Psynet, which is still showing signs of breaking down, and they're also trying to track down some changelings who were kidnapped in earlier books and had not been yet recovered. So there's a whole lot of storylines. They're tying up all of those so that we can move on in the next series. I enjoyed it. I will be moving on to the next series as soon as I can to just continue in this world. I also read All That Impossible Space by Anna Morgan. This is a 2019 release from Hachette, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I am part of a review tour for this, so I'm not going to talk about it now. You'll get a video and a blog post for this in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. Then I read The Tea Dragon Festival by Katie O'Neill. I received this as a review copy from NetGalley. This is a 2019 release from Oni Press, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is absolutely adorable. It is the second book. I think there is The Tea Dragon Society is the first one, which I heard a lot of people talking about at the end of last year, I think, and I haven't read it, but I have since pre-ordered this book and the first book so that I can read it. And I've also started reading it to this one to my class because I can project it off onto the board and read it to them, and they're just enamored by it. The Tea Dragon Festival is about Rin, who I think is a non-binary character. It's not a huge deal that's made about it. Rin lives in a little secluded village and has dreams of becoming a cook, and so spends a lot of their time trying to learn new recipes and to gather as much information as they can. And they're often sent out by the people in the village to go and gather various herbs and vegetables and different ingredients that the village needs to include in their meals. They're a vegetarian community, so there's no meat. And then one day while Rin is out collecting things, stumbles across an old hut that's sort of derelict and falling down, and inside the hut discovers a dragon who has been asleep for about 80 years. And it is a story about how this dragon came to be asleep for 80 years, what his purpose was in terms of protecting the village. And then amongst this you have the Tea Dragon Festival, where the whole village is celebrating the tiny little tea dragons who are really adorable and very, very cute. And it's just heartwarming and adorable, and I adored it. So I'm very much looking forward to getting a physical copy of both of these books. Then I read The Beholder by Anna Bright. This is a 2019 release from Harper Teen, and I received this in my Fairy Loot box. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I was pleasantly surprised by this, and also I was pleasantly surprised that I've actually read it within, you know, a month of receiving it in Fairy Loot. I think it's the first time that's ever happened, aside from Finale. This was sort of pitched as the Odyssey meets the Selection, and I mean, I haven't read the Selection, I have read the Odyssey many, many years ago. But this is the story of Seela, who is the Sentinel-elect of her little village island sort of community. And she lives with her father and her stepmother, who is pregnant with their child. And the stepmother is really sort of this stepmother figure from like all of the fairy tale myths. She's, you know, not very nice. And that basically sets the tone for the entire story, because you just get traditional tales and fairy tale retellings the whole way through it. In this community, it is expected that Seela will marry someone of worth and therefore be able to look after the community, because the whole thing is based around this idea that women must be married. And Seela, thankfully, like, this is fully a commentary on that sort of idea. So Seela wants to get married. She wants to get married for herself. She wants to have a partner, but she sort of balks at the idea that she is going to be expected to do this and other people are going to have a say in what should be her choice. I like that, because it is a real commentary on women having no choice and not being believed as being strong leaders without a male there to back them up. You'll read that and you'll go, I disagree with that. And then you'll go, oh no, hang on, there is a commentary going on here. She has asked one of the boys in the town to be her betrothed, and he turns her down quite publicly, and she doesn't really understand why. And then her stepmother suggests that she goes on this grand tour around the world, visiting all of these very well-off princes to see if one of them will become her betrothed. And basically she's not to come back until she's actually engaged, which is, you know, a whole ploy to keep her away, because evil stepmother. Reluctantly, Seela goes on this trip, and then we start moving through a lot more traditional tales. So the first one is the Arthurian legend. You have Arthur before he's the king, you have Merlin and all sorts of other characters in England. Then we move on to sort of some more Norse mythology and variations on Thor and the Norse gods. And that's sort of as far as we get. So you don't get the entire story. We're sort of about halfway through her first tour, and then the next part is sort of the Russian side. I think it's Russian. And there's hints of the Baba Yaga myth and sort of this deep impending threat. So the whole thing is just sort of fun, and there's really great commentary on social issues, and Seela grows as a character. Even as she makes a whole lot of mistakes, she recognizes that she doesn't know a lot. She's been sheltered her whole life, and she starts falling for these guys and then realizing that, you know, looks can be deceiving and personalities can be deceiving and people will play her for what they perceive will be their benefit. It was interesting, and I sped through this. I mean, it's not a small book, but it only took a couple of hours to read. So if you like your retellings, it's not a bad one. Then I read Storm and Fury by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is the first book in the Harbinger series, I think, which is a spin-off, apparently, of the Dark Element series, which I have not read, but I have since purchased on my Kindle because why not? This is a 2019 release. I think it comes out this week actually, from Inkyard Press, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is the first Jennifer L. Armentrout book that I've read, and it was great. I enjoyed it. I basically, once I started reading it, I really didn't want to put it down, and I started reading it on a train, so I had to put it down, and then I picked it back up when I was coming home, and then I had to do things around my apartment, and then I'm like, can I stop doing things around my apartment so I can finish reading the book? And I did, because I was that engrossed by it. I did receive this as a review copy from NetGalley. It is the story of Trinity, who lives in a community of wardens, and wardens are gargoyle shapeshifters, which I'm down for. Why not? That's a little bit different from my usual paranormal sort of urban fantasy reads. I think this is still technically classified as YA, but so YA paranormal urban fantasy. Trinity has a secret. The community of wardens that she lives with are there to protect her because she is half human and half something else, which you sort of find out later on, and you'll work out pretty quickly, but I'm not going to spoil it straight away. In this world, there are demons that infiltrate the human world, and it is up to the gargoyles to protect humans and the world from these demon threats. Trinity is bonded with one of the wardens who is specifically there to keep her safe. His name is Misha, and the two have known each other all their life. And Trinity herself has a degenerative eye disease that means she's progressively getting blinder as she goes on, and reading the author's notes at the end, it is something that Jennifer L. Armentrout actually has herself, so its own voices in that regard. And I really liked it because it's mentioned, but it's never made a really big deal of, and Trinity herself doesn't make a big deal about it because she's lived with it her whole life and she doesn't expect anyone to treat her any differently. But at the same time, because she doesn't talk about it and she doesn't necessarily explain it to other people, they don't understand that straight away. And so there were some really good conversations around that and around why she just sort of goes about her life, and I appreciate that. So anyway, back to the main story. They're living in the community. A second group of wardens arrive in the community to ask for help from Trinity's community, and then she meets Zane, who is one of the wardens, and straight away they have this connection, and it's quite antagonistic at the start, but they don't really know why they sort of keep gravitating towards each other. One night before the second group of wardens from DC leave, there is a really massive demon incursion into their community, and Misha is taken, and so Trinity is hell-bent on basically getting him back, and the story sort of progresses from there. It was a little bit wordy and lengthy, but at the same time I was thoroughly engrossed in it. I enjoy urban fantasy paranormal stories. I like being in those worlds. This was really fun because you've got gargoyles and demons, angels popping up, and all sorts of things. That's my jam, guys, so I liked it, and I would be definitely reading the first series because I want to find out about Zane and Layla and Roth's story, because that sounds like fun. And then finally I read The Little Wave by Pip Harry, which is an Australian middle grade novel told in verse. This is a 2019 release from University of Queensland Press, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The premise is that a school set in Manly in New South Wales is planning on bringing a country class to the city so that they can actually experience the beach, because many of these kids have not ever been to the beach. Throughout this story, the 3 main characters find each other and become quite good friends as a result. So you have Noah, who loves to surf. He lives in the city. His whole family and their life revolves around surfing and the beach and sort of that life culture. And at school, he is well liked. He's got a best friend, but however, his best friend is perhaps not really a friend and does some quite questionable things about it, but no one doesn't really know how to stand up to him. So it's really about him dealing with this bullying situation. And then you have Lottie, who is sort of on the outer in this school because prior to this story, her mother passed away, and as a result, her father basically withdrew and has become a hoarder. And so her reputation is an extension of his. And so people think that she's weird and strange, and their house is a mess and their front yard is a mess, and her father hasn't gotten help, and yet she doesn't know how to help him, but she wants to. And so she's sort of withdrawn into herself. She and Noah are paired together by their teacher in order to fundraise for the country class to come to school, so they begin to bond and find that they actually have a lot of things in common and they like a lot of similar things. That gives Lottie the strength in order to help herself and also to help her father. And then you have Jack, who is a country boy. He loves cricket, he is not so fond of school, he really struggles, and yet he really wants to go to see the beach, and so he becomes Noah's pen pal, and they exchange a lot of letters throughout the story. The whole thing was just beautifully told. I love the fact that it's told in verse. I actually picked this up because next term in my class we're going to be looking at poetry for reading and for writing, so I wanted to actually show them some accessible verse novels so that they can see that it's not just poems, but you can actually have verse novels as well. Very grateful that I read this. So those are the books that I read this week. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you are planning to. Alternatively, feel free to let me know something that you have been reading over the last 7 days. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.